And that's the other thing is like, we have this kind of wiring of how a traditional doctor's supposed to be, how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to go. And the truth is, that's what I think kills all of us. We lose our individuality in that. And so tapping into your inner kid self and why you decided to become a doc in the first place and making it fun every single day. Because if you don't, it's like where I was a couple years ago, like jump in front of a bus, I'm done, like screw this. Like.
Welcome to Personalized by Vitamin Lab, the show where we dive deep into the world of personalization in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. David Deiser. Please remember that the following discussion is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Speak with your healthcare practitioner first before integrating anything that you learned today. Join us as we explore the remarkable stories, breakthroughs, and possibilities that come with the pursuit of personalized healthcare. Welcome to Personalized. Today we're chatting with Dr. Jannine Krause. Dr. Krause is a naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, and the host of the Health Fix podcast. Fed up with women not having quality information, support, and resources to manage the impact of hormone shifts on aging, health, fitness, and mindset, Dr. Jannine Krause is on a mission to help active women over 50 defy aging to create their own versions of what getting older looks and feels like. She believes no sport, hobby, or bucket list activity is out of the question at any age, and is helping clients look beyond society's version of getting older and recreate their own. Dr. Krause is combining her podcast with group programs to help deliver insights into boosting energy, firing up metabolism, restoring quality sleep, maintaining strength and fitness, as well as what it takes to feel good in your body every day. She believes every woman deserves to understand their body, its changes, and how to optimize their health at any age. When she's not on an outdoor adventure with her husband, she can be found in her kitchen whipping up new recipes from something she grew in her own garden. Enjoy our episode with Dr. Jannine. I'm here with Jannine, should I say J9. Thanks for joining us today, Jannine.
David, thanks for having me on.
How you doing today?
I'm great. Like I said, great day in the neighborhood here. Doing good.
We really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining Personalized. We're really excited about the launch of our podcast, and we hope to learn from the lessons that you've had over the course of your career as a pro podcaster.
Yes, for sure.
How many episodes have you done?
I'm on 403 is going to be released this Saturday. That's where we're at.
That's amazing. That's serious commitment.
I love it. I just love getting to know people. And then it's like, I learn something every single time. Every time.
It's fun, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're hoping to do here too. I mean, like when I listen to podcasts, I'm looking for something actionable, just like the way that I approach CE, continuing education. It's got to be something that I'm going to be able to use in my life, because so much of our lives now are about work. I know you have a much cooler life maybe than I do because you're out and about, but most of the practitioners who are listening, it's all about work, right? And so you're spending every day learning from these experts, and I hope to do something similar here and direct this towards practitioners. How did you get into that? How did you get into podcasting? When did that begin, and what led you to it?
Sure. In 2017, right around Thanksgiving, I was like, these podcasts are pretty cool, and I like talking. And really what it came out of, though, more than just me liking to talk, is that I was a professor for quite a bit of time when I lived in Colorado. And I miss teaching, and I miss just sharing like stuff that I learned. Because of course my patients come in my office and be like, yo, did you see this? You guys, this is the coolest thing. And then I'm like, okay, I'm telling like 10 people a day, maybe 20 if it's a busy day and they actually want to listen to me. So I was like, why not podcasting? I can use my voice. I can tell people what I'm learning, and maybe someone else might find it cool. So that's what I did.
There you go. Gosh. When you first started, tell me about the experience. Like what type of practitioner or person were you interviewing? What was your sort of focus initially, and how has it evolved since then?
Oh my gosh. So when I first started, I couldn't even get anyone to come on my podcast. I had to like talk myself and mind my friends to come on. And so you get a lot of me being like, well, this is me. And this is my theory for today and my insights. But then you also start to see, like, I'll bring friends on, and then I just went on this, I can't even think of what it is now, but it was like this, it was almost like Podcorn, if you've heard of that one, where you can bring people on. And it was like the early version of something like that. And I just started mining folks from that and seeing, who would come on. And, in the time of a year, then by the end of a year, I had people that were pitching me. And I was like, wow, this is cool.
Amazing.
I'm cool.
Oh, that's so cool. So first of all, tell us the name of your podcast and tell us what it's all about.
Yeah. My podcast is called the Health Fix Podcast. And really what it is all about finding your fix as not like your fix that's going to fix you, but finding your fix as a health junkie. Meaning like anyone who's like, ooh, I love health stuff. Ooh, I'm wanting to learn more. I want to optimize. I want to bio-tune, whatever it may be. I was hoping to call in this group of folks that just needed something for like a weekly dose. And now it's twice a week dose of just fun stuff that they can learn to help optimize and share information and, just learn what's out there in the alternative medicine space, just to get an idea of it.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. How did you get there? Like, tell us a little bit about your educational background and what inspired you to sort of teach this type of medicine?
Sure. So I originally wanted to be a pro snowboarder. That didn't work out. I was 20, I was like, not 20, I was between 15 and 20. I thought that was like the jam I was going to be. I was going to do it, right? I was going to go big.
Completely.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see this, my mom ended up with breast cancer when I was 15. Mm-hmm. And I was at this point in my life where I was like, I really want my driver's license and I want to drive. And so I was like, I'll take you to all your appointments. Sure. And I thought, I'm just getting my driver's, stuff in. And what happened is I started going to these appointments. I was like, nah, cool. You go in. That's all weird. They're doing weird things in there. And I'd see her come out and she had a different color on her face. She looked so much vibrant. And I thought, okay, there's something to this. I want to go in there. And so when I went in with her acupuncturist, I was blown away about all the different things he was showing me. And like, this point does this and this does that. And so it turned into a year and a half of me hanging out with this older Chinese dude and him just showing me all the things. Mm-hmm. And then it moved into Timothy Birdsall. Don't know if you know him. He's a naturopath that used to work with the oncology group in the Chicago area. That was near my home and where my mom would go. And so those guys him and Shauna brought me in and kind of showed me the ropes there. And I did a little stuff for them, like admin, to kind of learn what it was all about. And after that, I was like, there's no way I could go to conventional medicine. Even though in the back of my head, I took the MCAT, I did all the things, applied to the schools. But I was like, there's no way. I have one tool there and I have like 45,000 over here. Mm-hmm. More tools in the toolbox. That is what was the ultimate decision. And just how caring and compassionate everybody was. I loved it. You feel good leaving those visits. The oncology visits, I was like, ugh, stick a fork in me,
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the modalities, my gosh. So did it start with acupuncture? Was that your favorite modality initially?
Oddly enough. So growing up in the Midwest, acupuncture still, this was, mind you, when I was getting into it as the 90s, by the time I got to Bastyr, it was 2011 by the time I finally got there. And so it was 2011. I have my dates off. It's been that long. 2001. There we go. Let's reverse. 2001, I ended up at Bastyr. And I actually had it in my head I was going to be a naturopath and maybe the acupuncture would happen. Mm. But because we had a dual program and like some of my friends were doing it and I was getting acupuncture in the student clinic, I was like, no, there's no way I can't not do this. Because I had in the back of my head, like, oh, acupuncture is kind of woo. I don't know. Let me tiptoe in this. Being a naturopath's weird enough in the Midwest. So how weird am I going to get? And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm weird. Let's do this. So that's where it went.
Come on, bring it.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing. So since then, tell me a little bit about the modalities that you incorporate the most.
Oh, my goodness. My favorite thing in the whole world, hands down, I love needles. And my dad jokes that if I could have been a drug dealer or like a drug user, I would have been, because anything needles, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. So my favorite's acupuncture, hands down. But I love trigger point injections. I love PRP. I love peptide injections. And then like second to that, it's fire cupping is my jam. Right. Love it. And then like third from that would be something called body tempering. Okay. And have you heard of this?
I have not.
Okay, so I worked with the Seahawks for a little while when I was back in Seattle, and it was all the rage. They would get these heavy weights and put it on the muscles of these guys. And like, granted, I'm working with these guys. I'm 5'2", and like, I'm probably as heavy as some of these heavy weights that we were rolling on them, basically, like 135-pound weights. But these
Wow.
heavy weights get on, and literally after a few seconds, once you get like your neurological system, you're working on breathing with it, the muscles just melt. And it's a really nice modality for folks who are struggling with tight muscles and trigger points, and like all the injections, the needles, the dry needling, doesn't work.
So did you call it body tempering?
Body tempering. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow,
Yeah.
cool. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Wow, so oh my gosh, I guess you're working with the Seahawks.
Yeah, briefly. And like I didn't work for, so let me be clear. So in case anyone's gonna like get upset, like fact check me here. I didn't work for the actual organization. I worked with some Seahawks that went to a private gym known as Vigor Ground Fitness in Renton, just right by the where the Seahawks play. So that's how I worked with some of the Seahawks. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay, cool. So can you tell me a little bit more about this therapy? So it's about compression with weight, right? And so you're doing it for tight muscles, and so you notice benefit immediately, or like how long does it take to notice some benefit from this?
Within 30 to 60 seconds, that muscle's gonna like melt, because it's kind of like blood flow restriction therapy of a sort, because you're pushing it all out, but you're also pushing the lymph too at the same time. And we're talking weight that the smallest one I have is 6 pounds. The heaviest one I don't have, because I weigh as much as the thing, is 135 pounds.
Okay.
But I have a 50 pounder that I will put on calves. I'll put on trigger points in the glute, and just I'll lean into it.
Right.
And it came really for me to do this. It came out of a modality of like, my hands are not as strong as they needed to be for folks who are big. And I was like icing my hands at night. I need something else here. And so, 30, 60 seconds, the muscle melts. And then these folks can get a trigger point after that, or you can do an acupuncture needling, or, there's lots of things you could do after that. And then we're getting results for, let's put it this way, if it's not an athlete, if it's an everyday Joe, we can get weeks out of that.
Amazing.
If it's an athlete, 5 days, depending on what their next workout is. And like some of my patients, like chronic stuff, like those knots you get right up on the top here and like right on the rhomboids, those guys chronically, we might have to do like a couple weeks in a row, and we can really get those melted down along with PT. You got to do the extra homework too, but yeah, it's cool stuff.
Love it. Yeah, we do a lot of cupping here, but I haven't done that type of therapy before. I have one of the gua sha tools, but I mean, I can't obviously put that much force through it like what you're doing. I love it. That's so cool. So there's a ton to unpack there, because I've obviously got an obsession with individualized care and personalized medicine, and that's why we're doing this. So we've got actually 4 NAD IVs going on right now across the door with one of my other. We just launched NAD IVs, so we're quite excited about it. People are getting great benefit from it.
Nice.
So I have a question. Do you do IV nutrients in your practice?
I never pulled the trigger on the IVs, and I'm an IV failure. I love needles and everything, but that's the one thing every time I went to do an IV, I don't know what it was about. I just would pass out every time.
Yeah. Okay.
And
You'd pass out yourself?
I would pass out myself. But IV pushes, I'm down.
Okay,
fair. But the actual IVs, I don't know what in the world. It's
No. We have one practitioner the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same way. You love needles, but no IVs. Oh my gosh.
So
I'm not trained in PRP. I'm not doing these type of injections. Do you do a lot of that work?
When I was in the office consistently, yes. Now it's kind of when I pop in, and I love it. I love it. It's game changer for folks. And if you can combine the PRP and the BPC 157 peptide injections, like people can avoid surgery. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, well, no, we're not permitted here. It's not part of our practice, not part of our scope to do peptides. Yeah. It's not in British Columbia. We don't do that.
Man, come down.
We get requests all the time. I know, right? I know.
Ship them over the border.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this really, really cool thing going on, both clinical practice and podcasts. And I noticed from preparing for today and for thinking about how we could generate some really good conversation for practitioners, that you sort of have like a 5-pillar approach to optimizing wellness. And I noticed that your program kind of accounts for all 5 pillars. Can you tell us a little bit about these 5 pillars and how you're focused on them and why?
Yeah. Well, over time, I started to realize when you first graduate, you're kind of in that camp of like, I'm going to follow all the protocols I learned from my favorite, docs in school, right?
Yeah.
And then you get out and you're like, not all these work. Crap. And same thing with Chinese medicine. You're like, but these are all the symptoms. If my patient doesn't have all those symptoms in the road that's supposed to use with those herbs, crap. So what ends up happening is you go, okay, foundationally, what can we do to put balance back in the body. It's no secret, gut. Everybody talks gut. Yeah, we can skip that one of my pillars, but it's definitely found that, if you skip the gut and someone's like, yeah, I have gas or bloating, and you're like, yeah, no, well, we're going to work on this first. Yeah. Your gut's going to kick you back every time. So I always got to work the gut. And then the other side of it's really looking, from there, I'm circulation and cells. And I really do think, and this probably comes from my foundation in Chinese medicine, that we need to boost the circulation big time. And if the cells are not getting the nutrients they need, and they're not getting the communication and cell binding, in terms of T3s, so thyroid stuff and all that, we got some problems. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I find that more often than not, I've got folks with cellular hypothyroidism, not the hypothyroidism. There's nothing wrong with that thyroid. It's the dang cells, not...
Oh, I'm with you. We measure metabolism and we measure oxygenation in the muscles here. We have 2 different devices that do that. And we see it so commonly, right? The TSH is perfectly normal, but the actual metabolic rate is so low.
Yeah, it's like, man, those cells, those poor cells, they take a lot of beating from life and toxins and all that. And so I look at that as kind of the side of mitochondria, cell health, circulation. I'm covering kind of that department as well with folks. The other big thing is blood sugar and how we're dealing with our glucose management, how that plays in. Because unfortunately, we can look at our diet and be like, I have the cleanest diet. But if you're stressed out, and your patients are stressed out, we got issues. And when I learned that there was like 1 in 4 people that, I don't know if you've seen this study, but like 1 in 4 people have fatty liver. It's like, no wonder we've got some issues going on here with blood sugar and insulin resistance and all of those factors. So
what are you looking at? How are you assessing this? Like, what are your go-tos for assessment? And if you could, a little bit about individualized care on that front.
Yeah. So I am always going to run a CMP on somebody. Always. So comprehensive metabolic panel, because I want to know how the kidney's working. I want to know how the liver's working. And then I'm also going to do a CBC because I want to see what the cells are up to. And for those of you who are listening that are either practitioners or even if you're just trying to gain some knowledge about the field, those white blood cells and the breakdown of those white blood cells tell me a lot about what's going on with your immune system. So I'll use these basics. And for a lot of people, we can run this right through insurance. I'll also use the thyroid check. I'll use insulin, fasting insulin. I'll use homocysteine because that's my liver check there. In addition to ferritin and in addition to C-reactive protein. That's kind of like my basic once over. And if I'm doing hormones, there'll be hormones in there. Vitamin D always. Now, once I screen through that, then I might decide to do a Nutri-Eval. Or I might decide to do, mycotox if I think that, those white blood cells show off and we've got some reasons to believe that there's some immune stuff going on. Or I'll do a Cyrex Array 12 because that antibody testing can tell me like fast bacteria, virus,
I'm not familiar with that one. Array 12. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Cyrex is the name of the company and it's antibody testing. And so we're looking for what the immune system is actively doing within, that snapshot of time. What is it responding to? There's candida in that test. There's looking at herpes viruses. There's looking at pretty much think all of the like chronic infections. So Lyme, that kind of stuff. So I use that one to kind of when I'm going, all right, there's a chronic infection because I've seen those white blood cells off. I'll run that. And especially if someone's super fatigued, long-term, could be long haul COVID, it could be long haul Epstein-Barr and they know it. I'm also like, what else is there? So I'll use that for it to tell me kind of like how much inflammation is in the body and how much are we going towards almost autoimmune status in that case too.
Absolutely. Okay. Interesting. Gosh, I've never run that one. It's not a big part of my practice here thinking about infectious disease in that way, but it's so valuable when you assess and you find something. It's like, okay, well, everything's messed up because your immune system is so dysregulated.
Yep. And that's one of my pillars, looking at inflammaging and looking at the inflammation, like what's got your body pissed off? What is it? And I'm not in the camp of like find something, target it and kill the hell out of it. That doesn't work as well as I wish theoretically. It's same thing as like choosing a diet. Like, ooh, carnivore, ooh, this, same thing. What protocol am I going to use for killing bugs? No, it's back to health optimization and getting the body working foundationally better. But if we know where the source of the inflammation is, likely that's going to be the source of the decreased circulation, and then we kind of can cascade it back from there and go, oh, okay, these are the things. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally get it. Okay. All right. So let's take an example, for example, of, a high fasting insulin. Someone who has kind of like normal blood sugar, but their fasting insulin is too high for them. What are the next steps? And you're thinking about how to individualize it for the person. Are you considering these labs depending on the history, and then maybe working holistically to support sort of everything that you found? Or are you just going straight into, exercise, blood sugar control supplements? What's it like for you?
Sure. I often, before I jump into specialty testing, I'm already going to have somebody on a basic plan, because unfortunately we get fancy with these tests, and I love these tests. They're extremely useful, but obviously they're expensive, and we can see a lot from just that CBC and CMP. I can get a ton of info just in general. So what I'll usually do is if I see a high fasting insulin, obviously I'm going to go through their lifestyle stuff, because most folks with it, they're not realizing habit behaviors and then the resulting emotion connection of what they do. All of that is a play. So I've got to get them tracking their habits, emotions, behaviors, because I've seen cortisol tied in way too hefty there. Now, the other thing is I'm going to have them on a metabolic reset. That's like my hands down first step with anyone with the high insulin. We've got to get that down. And so if they're not already eating a clean diet, and by clean, I mean, I will take out the grains, and I will go down to vegetables, fruits, and lean meats. And then I take out the oils just to clean the liver out, because that high insulin also will show up as a fatty liver, and it might not even show up that they have abnormal liver enzymes. I'm sure you've seen this factor too.
Absolutely.
And so, that diet is where I go first. Even before exercise, it's diet and mindfulness, because so much of that plays in. And then exercise comes later.
Right. Okay. Diet first. Gosh, how naturopathic of you. I love it. Come on. So basically like an elimination diet to get them started. And I noticed that your program was sort of like reset, rebalance, and reimagine. I love that. So is that the reset step? Is the nutrition portion?
You got it. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the next step. What's the rebalance look like?
So it's looking at like what's off. And this is where the personalized nutrition and nutrients comes in. Because I'm going, all right, what's off? What are we missing? What do we need to tailor to you? Because so often, and this is what brought me to Vitamin Lab, is that so often I see supplements, I'm like, I don't want that for you because that might push things that way. And I don't want that, but I do want this. And then you're like, I'm spending hours looking for something that's going to fit when I can just make it myself.
Totally. Yeah, it's the best. We've made so many custom formulas since I've been a part of Vitamin Lab. I mean, people just love it. And it's so much better for us to have something that's absolutely custom. So you're doing a nutrient panel and rebalancing and creating a program that's individualized that it takes into account nutrient deficiencies. Yep.
Cool. Most of the time it's at NutriVal. And because I work with a lot of athletes, and have had some connection, and this is kind of part of my other side of my business, and where a lot of the customization comes in is that we've got some fighters, some UFC fighters and folks in the group, and some amateur fighters, and we will use the athletes quite commonly to try out the individualized stuff and tweak it more, because they have the higher needs for things, and it's been super cool. And they love it because now something's made just for them and their specific recovery needs and things of that nature too. So I can't say enough about being able to do that and just seeing some great stuff.
That's cool. It's cool. Yeah. What's the reimagine part like? Like what is the reimagine? What does that mean?
Awesome. It's something that I thought about to myself too. I'm like, I should probably explain this better. It's really reimagining how getting older looks for you, because so many folks are like, okay, if we look at traditional societal kind of presentations, we get old, then we die. And a lot of women were telling me like, all right, my life's over, my career's over fitness wise, being told like after an injury, oh, well, it's time for you to make cookies. And that's what you're going to do now. And it's like, what? No.
Come on.
No. And so it's reimagining how getting older looks, but also you want to ski, learn how to ski when you're 40. Great. Let's do this. You want to learn how to, you name it. I've got connections with friends like, you want to skydive at 45? Great. Let's get you connected with somebody, And so it's thinking about like, what can you reimagine for the rest of your 120, 30, whatever, years? Let's think about.
It's so cool. I say you like tapping into that 15-year-old snowboarder that you really are at the core. I love it. My kids are super young, and we have for some reason, part of our television has like the Red Bull channel.
Oh,
and
nice.
so they get an opportunity to watch these young female snowboarders just crush it and be amazing. And they're just like in awe and they can't wait to get to the hill. They've never been snowboarding, but they just think that these kids, like, they make it look so easy, right?
And that exact childhood wonder and like fired up about that. It's like, back when I used to watch the Olympics, I get all fired up, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's the same thing. And I want folks to feel that same way as they get older. I want them to be like, can I mountain bike? Yeah, let's downhill. Let's cross country mountain bike. I don't know, climb a mountain. What do you want to do? Let's do this.
Nice. How do you take someone there? Like, for us, we're in a place where we like measure muscle mass and we give people individualized programs to help with their training and their balance and their neurologic support, right? But what's that reimagine part look like for you? They've got the nutrients taken care of, everything's in balance. How do you take that next step?
Sure. So first and foremost, I will run them through my individualized program, let's put it that way, in terms of conditioning training. And we'll start working with heart rate variability. We'll start working with heart rate training. And it depends on like what their jam is, right? Like, what do they want to do? We'll tailor it towards what they want to get better at or what they want to start in. I also am connected with a group that does VO2 max testing in Seattle. And so for a lot of my folks in the Seattle area, we hook them up with them. We know what's going on and we can monitor parameters there. I don't do it myself.
Amazing.
And then from there, it's working with me in a one-on-one thing where we're going, all right, where's your heart rate now? And we're working through fitness programs. I also do programming for their physical fitness. And then from there, we get them out on whatever they're going to do. And I either hook them up with a coach who can do that, or if it's something that I'm well-versed at, I'll walk them through it. And if it's someone who's in the Seattle, Tacoma area, I'm back there enough that if it's something that we're going to do there, we'll do that. If they want a box, we know how to get them into somebody. So it's kind of like connecting them then with the next steps of who we know in our circle and going forward with it.
Cool. Well, what does that mean to you as the practitioner, as a physician in charge? Like, I just think of people who have this childhood wonder, right? This childhood like self that they're trying to explore and reimagine, as you put it. And as the practitioner, it must feel good to see them actually accomplish their goals. You must be just thrilled about that.
I love it. I love it when I get a text and someone's like, I just ran a 5K, or I just ran my marathon and qualified for Boston, or I just did this or that. That for me, it's just awesome to see people take that everything inside them and know that they can be their own best doctor and know how to tweak things and just thrive. I mean, it makes me so happy.
Vitamin Lab revolutionizes personalized supplements, empowering health practitioners to create tailored supplement formulations that address each patient's unique needs. Bring personalized health to your practice and choose from over 200 professional-grade ingredients to create vitamin formulas that improve patient adherence and result in tangible outcomes. All ingredients are sourced from the world's most trusted suppliers, and Vitamin Lab provides hands-on support to help you formulate and launch personalization to your patients. Say hello to a new era of personalized supplement solutions. Go to getvitaminlab.com/personalized to save $100 off your first formula.
How do we help young naturopathic physicians and integrative medical physicians tap into that? Like, do you have any suggestions for your young self? If you were to sort of like enter into practice today, you're in a place where you have all this passion still. You've got this really unique career where you're able to see patients and talk about health all the time. But also you're still feeling the joy, right? You're still feeling that experience and you're there for people when they actually hit those goals. What suggestions would you give to someone just graduating today?
Oh my gosh. What I would say, let's put it this way. If you're starting to lose the joy, that's step one, because I sound great right now. You would have caught me a couple years ago. I was burnt out. I didn't want to do this anymore. I was on the verge of just like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm just going to go kick it somewhere else, and be done. And what I realized is that I had to get back to what was my original vision and what's fun for me. So it's always going back to, if you're not having fun, it's time to switch things up. And if it's something where you feel like you're trapped and you're like, oh, I'm in a practice, I got this solid income coming, and if I drop it, what do I do now? Because I've got to pay my student loans and all this. It's more, how can you adapt? And honestly, COVID kind of helped me to be able to be like, oh, I could do different things. And that's the other thing is like we have this kind of wiring of how a traditional doctor's supposed to be, how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to go. And the truth is that's what I think kills all of us. We lose our individuality in that. And so tapping into your inner kid self and why you decided to become a doc in the first place and making it fun every single day. Because if you don't, I mean, it's like where I was a couple years ago, like jump in front of a bus. I'm done. Like, screw this. Like,
oh my goodness, for sure. Wow. Well, look at you now. Gosh, what was your strategy? Like, how did you get back to the fun part?
I really had to become a different person. I did. I had to look at it and go, okay. And being a different person meant that I had to go back to my kid-like self because I had lost that. Like, no joke, I had lost that. And so becoming a different person means you've got to look at your emotions. You've got to put yourself in check because it's really easy to get into a downward spiral loop, especially when things aren't working for folks and they're not on, getting better. And then you start thinking, oh, I suck. I'm terrible at this, whatnot. You have to really go like, I got to put my emotions in check and slow down and spend the time taking care of you and spend the time, like prioritize having fun and doing the fun things and not skipping those because I'm a doctor and I take care of patients. No, bring your identity back to, who you are. Don't lose it in just being a doctor. You're so much more than that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Very well put. One of the last things that my grandmother said before she passed away was never stop playing basketball. It was like, she's like 70 years old and my career was completely over. And the last thing she said, never stop playing basketball. Never stop. Mm-hmm. I hear you. I'm with you on that one. We're opening a second location that's inside of a fitness facility. Oh, so fun. It's like, part is a fitness facility and these places, right? And the other part is like a health center. So it's like a physician, a chiropractor, and us. The child in me is like, I can't wait. It's going to be so cool. Just to be in that atmosphere,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's that's kind of like what my jam was in Seattle for a while. And yeah, it's fun. You have to really embrace the fun and work on the emotions and the negative mindset that'll try to creep in and be like, this isn't how it's supposed to be, or you're not good enough, or, all those things. Put yourself in check when you see those, man. You got to squash them. But I'm so excited that you're doing that. That's cool. I think we need more of that. I do.
Totally. Thank you for that. It sounds like, with the short period that we've spent together now and one time prior, it seems like you have this deep connection with the outdoors. Mm-hmm. And the outdoors really important to you and being in nature and surrounding yourself in that way. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how it benefits you, and if you use that as a sort of a prescription for patients, for example?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's probably one of the first things you'll get from me is I'll talk about grounding, or I'll talk about like, what do you like to do outside? And eventually I can find something for everyone. It's very rare that I don't. But really for me, being outside, it's funny. Like my mom and I would argue back in the day because I came from a pretty religious family. I was like, that's my church. That's where I find peace. That's heaven for me. Is anything outside, anytime being outside, that is the best. And it rejuvenates you every time you go out there. There's nothing I can say when I go outside and I come back in. I can't be in a bad mood. I can't. Yeah. There's just no way. Yeah, it's just...
I'm getting to experience it right now. You were just out apple picking and you're in a great mood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was getting ready and do my applesauce here. Yeah. No, it's exactly. You got it. There's no way I myself can never be in a bad mood if I've been outside and come back inside. I'm good. I just need to.
So you're doing some grounding. You're doing any cold therapy, anything like that?
Cold therapy is one of the things that I can do it in the shower. Plunging in a pool has been tough for me. It has been tough. It's super tough. I do more red light, so infrared. I've got my own Juve here. I do even the little panels. I love that kind of stuff. That's probably my favorite. My cold therapy is probably when I go out running and it's cold outside, or it's like
that works.
Cross country skiing or snowboard or ski kind of stuff. I'll get my cold therapy.
For sure. I was this close to the Juve to purchasing it. Tell me a little bit about red light therapy and how it benefits you.
Sure. So I have it next to my bike. And so what I do is I'll turn it on while I'm riding my bike. And granted, I've got my strip down because I want all my body to get part of it. And so for me, I feel like I get a better sweat, but I also feel more alive after it. Because all of us have kind of little things that quirks about ourselves. I have circulation that just isn't the best in my hands and feet. And when I've got the Juve more consistently, my circulation is improved and it feels better. Just in general.
Amazing. You feel better. Mm-hmm. Is it like function or temperature? What's it like?
In terms of the circulation, for me, it's more temperature. I don't feel cold, because oftentimes I will feel cold. And function wise, yeah, I would say for the rest of the day, I feel like my mobility is better as a whole. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you do any cold laser therapy other than the red lights? Do you do any like infrared lights or anything like that?
Only infrared. I haven't done cold. I haven't jumped on the cold laser bandwagon. I haven't. No.
Well, I mean, I think that having the red lights, we were considering them for the practice here. But there's a bunch of companies around here that just do that. Really, if you should go and be, but it seems like it needs to be done quite frequently to get the benefit of it. What do you think about the frequency and duration of this?
Yeah, you have to. I bought one, like panels for my office, little Salumas, back when I was doing some skincare stuff. And it's nice, but it's like, it has to be daily, if not like at least 5 times a week. And so what I've kind of moved more towards is encouraging patients to buy their own units if they can afford it. Yeah.
Well, and you think a good use of it is during fitness?
I might be doing that because I'm trying to stack my habits.
Yeah. Okay.
To be honest with you, I think it could be used just relaxing. I think it could be used anywhere and any time. I haven't done like a full study on myself to see like temperature changes between exercising and just standing there. I could have a little bit of a hyper nervous activity going on that maybe I need to be doing something with it. So I'll be honest that I probably, if I had to look back to when I've done it just standing compared to when I've been on the bike, I get a better response on the bike, but that might just be because that's me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fair. The reason I ask is there's some places that like that's the whole thing where you're doing the fitness while you're exposed to the red light. I've never tried it, but it sounds cool. It sounds like you're doing it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of at least, I mean, as if I look at my schedules, depending on how I do it, during the winter, it's at least 3 to 4 times a week. During the summer, it lags off. I'm usually only like 2 times, but yeah.
Fair. It sounds like your whole approach is centered. I don't know if the term anti-aging is correct, but maybe improving health span and lifespan at the same time. But tell me a little bit about what that looks like. It looks like, for you, what you've described so far is about, tapping into that childlike self. But what does healthy aging really look like for you and your patients?
Sure. It's being able to do the things you want to do at a level that feels good to you. And by that, I look at it as a span. Some people are wanting to crush goals, they're on Strava and they're trying to be the top person, right? Whereas other folks just want to be able to get to the top of a hill or a trail and be able to take that look out and not be like having their family waiting on them or something of that nature. Sure. And so, we could take this to any span, but for me, looking at aging and how I look at it, it's really just being able to do the things that you want to do for as long as you possibly can with the cognitive function there as well, like the whole package going
Definitely. On. What kind of cases do you have? Like, what kind of things have your patients been able to accomplish on your program?
Oh my gosh, I had mentioned earlier one of the gals, we've been working with her with running. She was told literally by her primary care doc because of some ankle injuries and some foot injuries that they were like, yeah, you should start baking cookies. You're too old to run. Right. And so she came to me and was like, so this is what my primary care doc said. What do you got? And because she's super blunt, it's funny about that because she literally was like, what do you got? And so we've put her through I would say like 3 times over of my program since I've known her for now probably about 8 years. And she went on to run, I don't know how many marathons. She runs like a 5K at least every weekend. She's 65 years old and
nice.
No injuries. If we have a little tweak, we do a little acupuncture and she's good to go again. And, I would say in terms of like mental health and physical health as a whole, all of her parameters look great. She's improved in the last couple years. And we joke because she retired and she was a teacher and she retired and she's like, I even feel better now. And I'm like, yeah, no stress. We've reduced a big level of stress. So she's kind of one of my top people. And then my other folks, I've got another gal in my practice. I tend to attract a lot of runners, probably because my history of marathons and things. I've got another gal who literally was anemic, was not feeling great. And her blood sugar was really off, a couple tweaks, and she's good to go. And she's in her 60s. And so, seeing folks and women in particular at these age ranges when a lot of historical, what we see with society, where they're like, oh, that's the time you slow down. This is when you gain weight and all that. No, these gals are like doing better than they were in their 40s and before that. So this is
Love
really
it.
cool.
I
Yeah.
want to see their VO2 max. I have this obsession with VO2 max because we've had some really good cases, right, where people have gone from sort of like newbie to, full-time athlete, retired and all in on this type of training. And the VO2 max can initially jump super high. And I just love seeing that. There's this sort of like this part of life where it just starts to naturally decline, and seeing that not happen and then actually it improve, it's so, so empowering.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Both of these ladies have had that testing. They both went
Amazing.
through the group in Seattle. I wish I would have pulled it for you, but yeah, they both had it and both keep
So they know.
improving. They know. They're like, they crack me up. Like, they will get done with their marathons. They go get their IVs. Like they know like what works for them. And literally that's my goal. I'm here the guide. I'm just, keeping people out of trouble and just nudging and inspiring and whatever voice of they need at that time. But like all of these gals, they know now like how to train, what they need best. They're their own best doctors. And that's where I want folks to be.
That's really cool. I'm inspired by what you're doing. I'd love to hear some of the lessons that you've gained from speaking to so many experts on your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of some of the really interesting conversations you've had that have changed your practice and given you something new or interesting or fun or even just strictly beneficial to the patient from your actual conversations?
Yeah. Some of the most profound ones that I've had have been in the space of mindset, more than just like, hey, check out this new supplement or check out this new thing. In particular, one of the ones that I really, really like, let's say, brought home is something called the paradox process. And it's a process of talking yourself through your negative, self-image and things that'll get you down, change your emotion, and keep you from doing stuff and keep you from thriving. And so Thomas Jones from the paradox process was probably one of like, out of many of my podcasts, just the whole concept of, oh, you can talk yourself out of these things. Even the thought of like, of subconscious mind, if I go further back, I've worked with folks like Bob Doyle, and I had a podcast. I can go back to him for a minute. He was probably one of the first people that I talked to, and I was like, wait, there's a subconscious mind that's controlling my thoughts, that's keeping me from doing what? Yeah, and then how to rewire your brain. That like my mind was blown at that point. So those are two examples of some of the folks that I was just like, there's something there. Yeah.
I love it. When my wife and I were a bit younger, we did the life visioning process. Have you ever heard of that before? Michael Beckwith. It's really cool. Same idea. You go through this program and you're focusing on improving your subconscious thinking. And it was really valuable to me because it's so easy, like when you're busy, for example, to just sort of just go with whatever the environment is throwing at you. But having some training and some control and some practice really does calm the mind and allow for maybe a more positive self-conscious vibe. That's what I've experienced anyhow.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy, like how much your mind has a play in your health and how much those wiring things and those beliefs and all of that really can mess with how well you take care of yourself, but also your ability to envision or reimagine what's next for you and your ability to heal too. And so, that's one of the things at Bastyr, I loved my training, but I don't think I connected on that level and understood that because maybe I had my Midwest beliefs of like, all this stuff's woo-woo, but I'm doing it anyway, So it's possible. But yeah, that's kind of been some of the most profound things that I've heard. And even interviewing Olympian Laura Wilkinson, I got some great tips from her too about goals and setting and really how much that subconscious mind plays into that. It's crazy.
Yeah. The mindset. Oh gosh. This is the thing, right? We get so wrapped up in like specific protocols for this condition or that condition, but having a conversation about mindset and about the way that conscious and subconscious thought is going for a person can be so valuable. I really like testing cortisol in scenarios where there's sort of like ruminating thinking or uncontrolled thinking, because I get surprised every single time. Like I think, okay, it's definitely going to be high cortisol and we're going to need to be suppressing because the rumination is out of control. And then we test and it's super low. And so it throws me, and I always feel so happy that we took the road of assessment and individualized care in cases like that, because before getting to this, every time someone had rumination, I would be like suppressing cortisol, trying to force them into sleep, taking the nervous system completely down. And sometimes people got worse. Yeah. Has that been your experience too?
Oh my God, I laugh because I'm like, yeah, me too. I did that a lot. Yeah, until I really realized that, oh, wait, there's different ways people, manifest these things, but also how they store the emotions and all that. But yeah, I've gotten to the point now where like, yes, I'll test cortisol, but not as much. I drive towards the like, tell me about your emotions, behavior, and habits, like what follows these things, and let's say inviting people to track their symptoms and seeing like how that's all connected. Because the cortisol thing happened to me a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, your approach might be even more appropriate, considering even if the cortisol is high or low, it's not like you want to be just treating that one hormone. There's, like, to your point about your 5-pillar approach, there's so much more that goes into that. It could be chronic infection that's driving it up, for example. It could be a nutrient deficiency that's making it incredibly low. And it sounds like your approach is kind of like all encompassing, like instead of just like full, let's just suppress. It sounds like there's other things that we could be doing to sort of holistically think about this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of the time when folks work with me, they're going to get more homework. I'm not going to overwhelm them with homework. It's one step at a time, but there's going to be things that I'm going to teach you how to do at home to counter certain things so that you can pull it out of your back pocket when you need it. And it's there versus having to like come in and see me. And some of this really came about with COVID, because I don't know about how you guys were in BC, but with acupuncture, I wasn't able to see people for a while. And so, I had to get real freaking creative with like, how can we help you get the same effect at home, so that you can feel zen? And so, yeah, I do a lot of teaching of like what therapies might be good at what different times, and being able to recognize like, oop, my emotions changing or my energy's changing. I'm going to go in one direction or other and work with that. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. I need to learn from you because I am not an expert in this realm. Let's say someone is experiencing significant ruminating thought or some what we might call symptoms of anxiety. What are your sort of lifestyle tips? Like, what are you telling a person to do at home?
Excellent. So we're looking first, like we go back and go, all right, what's provoking the anxiety? Like, look at your symptoms of when it shows up. If we're talking about a female who's still got her period, when is it showing up in the cycle? Because maybe we need to tweak a little hormones a little bit. Maybe we need to work on exercise reduction. I work with a lot of athletes, so we kind of got to look at recovery and things like that. But I'm also looking at what else is happening in your life that might be provoking this anxiety. And if we can't pull it out of anywhere, it's like random, we don't know, then I'm going to go to energy and be like, okay, we've got this thought, right? And we're bringing on that, and you can feel it come in. First things first is I'm going to start working on breathing. And I do a lot of Patrick McEwen's, like the Oxygen Advantage. Have you heard of his work?
I haven't.
Okay. So for those of you who are listening, and also for you, David, I think it's oxygenadvantage.com or theoxygenadvantage.com. It's really, I have people do their Bolt score, and it's looking at literally how they inhale through their nose and how long they exhale and how long they can hold their breath on the exhale. You probably geek out on this because of your connection with the
I'm absolutely going to do this right away.
Yeah.
I've written it down in my head.
Yeah. Go for it. And
say the name one more time.
It's called the Bolt, B-O-L-T.
Okay.
Score.
B-O-L-T. Got it.
Yeah. And this is, I'll have people check that and go, all right, what's my Bolt score? Can I hold longer than 10 seconds? If they can't, then we know that we've already got a diaphragm and a nervous system not carbon dioxide, nitric oxide messaging issue off. And that could be just functionally that anxiety's popping off because of that. So anytime they feel that anxiety coming on, I'll have them doing that. I'll have them with waking up, going to bed, got to do some of that. And then my other big thing is actually I'll use tapping. So emotional freedom technique, tapping stuff. Some people resonate with that, especially my acupuncture folks, the people that chill with acupuncture. I give them some tapping. The other thing that I'll often do too is we'll get on some essential oils. If they vibe on essential oils, we're going to put them on acupuncture points, either on the chest or up on the jaw or vagus nerve. And so I'll often also use vagus nerve things where we've got a little bit of vibration. So if their phone vibrates, we'll just get the phone and put it here. We'll put it here. We'll put it here. Now some folks are going to be like, that's EMFs. In the moment, we'll do it. Later on, we get them their toothbrush that vibrates, and we can calm it down that way too. But I start to work on vagus nerve that way. Or like my other biggie, like you can tell there's 1,000 things based on what the person's personality's like. Sometimes it's simple as like 3 big lioness yawns. The lion in the zoo, you do some yawns and let's see if that shifts it. And we just keep practicing that like we're doing exercise. We're practicing it and you're just training yourself that every time you feel that, you work on a reset for it. And then the background on it is looking at your habits, routines, behaviors. What's provoking this? What's getting at it? Is it negative emotions? Is it negative thoughts? Is something, there's always something that's provoking it. The idea is what is it? Is it food? So we do the research while we're doing some of the calming tools.
I love it. I'm so glad that we had you chat about that because it's so different than what a lot of practitioners like myself might do is, have this sort of obsession with exercise and with calming the nervous system through supplementation. But these lifestyle things, typically we suggest 4 square breathing. And I read this book one time called Buddha's Brain.
Yeah.
Where it described a few of these techniques, but not the ones that you're describing. These are very new to me and I'm very interested in them. The bolt is the assessment, right? Or is that a type? It's the assessment, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the type of breathing that you typically would recommend, is it something that has a name, for example?
It doesn't have an official name. And so there's 2 types of breathing that I would do depending on what someone resonates with, kind of seeing like, does this feel good or does this feel better? And so the first one is taking the inhale through the nose and the exhale back out the nose. And when we exhale back out, we do 5 of them and seeing if 10 seconds feels okay. It's anywhere between 7 and 10 seconds. Then we take a break and then we breathe normally for 5 or so breaths. And then I'll do one of those holding ones and do that for 5 rounds. And then that's one style and that's done. That's one series done. And I'll usually end it with some yawning. And the other one is where we take a short, like the normal inhale in, and at the top of that inhale, take a second inhale and then exhale back out. That's the other go-to, especially for if we're going to panic status, if we're headed there, I'll do that one with folks.
Alveolar priming. I heard that's really helpful during exercise.
Yeah.
Right. That second short inhale.
Yes. And if you're like panicking in the mile 19 and you're like, I can't do this marathon anymore. Totally worth it.
Amazing. One time I did the Wim Hof lesson number 1, where you do this sort of breathing exercise for a few minutes and then it ends with you holding your breath and doing push-ups.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done push-ups in a while. And I thought this is crazy, but I have to do it because I like Wim Hof and I think he's cool. And so I did it and I did 70 push-ups while holding my breath. It took like a little less than a minute. And I was like quite impressed with this. This is a sort of full oxygenation. If you don't know what it is, it's like an oxygenation technique and then you hold your breath and do an exercise. That was really cool for me.
Oh my God. Yeah, I love those. I love having people do those because everyone comes back like, what?
Yeah,
just
come on. Physiology, man.
Yeah, it's
cool.
It's impressive what we can do when we drive the oxygen out of the tissues. It's like impressive. So crazy.
Tell me about some of the essential oils that I hate to take you down the stress reduction, but this is super interesting to me. What are the essential oils that you would use on these? You said on acupuncture points, correct?
Yeah. So typically, everyone's going to think of lavender first, and actually lavender is not my first.
Okay.
I will use clove and lime first. Clove and lime combined. Jody Cohen out of Seattle, she has Vibrant Blue oils. I use her parasympathetic blend. And so she has it designed specifically for calming parasympathetic nervous system. And I'll put one behind the ear where the vagus nerve comes out. And then right below the collarbone, we've got what are called spirit gate points on either side of the sternum. And so like those spaces, the first 3 down, I will have people put some oil and tap when they put the oil down all the way there. And then on the inside of the wrist, there's the acupuncture point that folks know for like nausea, P6. It's right there. I'll do that one as well. And a lot of times I'll have people put their last dab of the climb. That is lime and clove together. At kidney 1, you should. It's good stuff. So at the bottom of the foot where you've got like you've got the ball of the foot and we've got that spot in the center there, it's known as kidney 1. All people put that last, and that's kind of my first go-to. If someone doesn't have any access to that, a lot of women have frankincense. It's kind of a thing. And especially second half of the cycle, I'll use frankincense in those same exact points, or helichrysum. Those are kind of like my 4.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm going to rewatch this and take proper notes so that I can add to my protocols. That's so helpful. Thank you so much. I'd like to finish today by, sort of just wrapping it up with a broad holistic overview of what we've covered so far. It sounds like, you're helping people optimize their wellness for healthy aging. That sounds like sort of like your path right now. And in doing that, I'm wondering if you have any sort of condition-specific practice. Are you helping athletes in recovery as well? Or is there something specific that you see a lot of?
Typically, I am doing kind of perimenopausal, menopausal hormone balancing, if you will, andropause kind of status. That's kind of what I tend to attract, I think I would say. And then the other side of it's like chronic fatigue. We don't know what's wrong, mold, that kind of stuff. I will also have that going on in terms of practice. And then when we tweak it towards the athletes, it's the athletes who overtrained or folks returning back to becoming athletic again. I feel like you never lose your athleticism. You're just returning. And so I have a lot of folks that'll gravitate that way. But if we want to categorize it, probably it is. I'm very heavily in the hormone balancing and kind of endocrine side of things.
Because this is a personalization podcast, I'm like fascinated with the different approaches that we can take in menopause. And I'm wondering, are you a bioidentical prescriber? Are you taking a herbal route? What's your go-to protocols?
Anything and everything, what works.
Love it.
And I would probably call it a hybrid. I've been lately calling it a hybrid approach because when people come to me, it's usually folks that have not tolerated bioidenticals and they want to try to come back to it, or they're trying to figure out like what's their sweet spot. I don't do pellets because I tend to be the one that like people see me when the bioidenticals don't seem to work. And so I will sometimes microdose them. I'll sometimes microdose herb and some of the bioidenticals. Sometimes we do full bioidentical. And sometimes I have people who, what we're doing is we're working on signaling from brain to adrenals. We're working on mindset work, little quantum stuff too, to try to get the system to reboot itself. If I see a DHEA that's holding on and strong enough in those adrenals, I'm like, let's get it to do its own thing.
Yeah, let's use it. What's the route to assessment? Are you mostly blood, urine, saliva? Which route do you go in menopause?
Great question. I do a combo of things because I feel like if someone's wanting to do bioidenticals and they really want to understand what's going on, I will typically do urine and I'll typically do blood to start. So those two. And the reason being is because I know that blood is kind of a reflection of urine on the endpoint, but I will do those just to get a baseline of what's happening in real time and then what's happening with the metabolism. Because I think it's valuable to know how you metabolize either methylation or through the liver, because if this could protect you from cancer stuff too. And so in my mind, I'm thinking long-term for somebody and what we need to be paying attention. And then if I do put someone on a topical version of a bioidentical, then I'm going to use saliva pretty heavily in that part. If they're not using a topical, we're using oral or we're using herbal types of things. It varies, but most of the time I'm going to be going like Quicksilver and liposomal stuff, or I'm going to be doing the topicals. I tend not to I won't do oral estrogen ever. I'll use patches, or I will use troches. If I'm going to do, and that's my one caveat for oral, I will use a troche, but I won't do capsules of estrogens. So from there, I typically, if I'm doing anything compounded, I probably will use more of a saliva route to see what's going on. But if someone comes into me and they're only on like a progesterone capsule, I tend, and this sounds kind of weird because I tend to not look at the blood with just a capsule, because I'm not going to see much unless it's really, really high. So if someone's just on progesterone plain, I probably will look at saliva too, and just in a capsule only basis, just because I don't ever see anything in the blood.
Interesting. And is testosterone part of your scope? Are you using testosterone in women who are in menopause?
Yes. Skipped completely over testosterone. Yes, I do. And microdosing. I'm not in the camp of huge dosing. Keep in mind that folks that come to me are usually going to be ones who found, and this is probably why I skipped over testosterone, is because a lot of people are going to come to me having lost hair already, and their DHT levels are super high. So I'll do the urine testing to see what's up. But yeah, if I'm going to do testosterone in a woman, I'm always going to run a urine test, because I want to know if you drive towards making more DHT, because then we've got to either figure out how to help you to metabolize that, or we've got to maybe do an herbal route, something of that nature, and see how that goes. But most women who are athletic don't necessarily need testosterone unless they've really blown themselves out. Let's put it that way. Folks who are non-athletic, it runs the gamut. And I find even like 1 to 3 milligrams at the most is good enough. We don't need to be getting into those 10 milligram dosages for women.
Well, thank you for sharing with me, because in British Columbia, we can't prescribe DHEA or testosterone. And so, because we measure muscle mass, and I have a bit of an obsession with maintaining muscle forever and ever, I feel like sometimes that we're missing out on this potential for low dose testosterone therapy. And so it sounds like you've had some good experiences with this, and it's still part of your approach and using it quite frequently.
I do. And DHEA, just to speak to DHEA, sometimes people do great on just DHEA.
Right.
They don't even need the testosterone. They don't even need the estrogen, just a little bit of DHEA, and boom, they're ready to go. So, and in terms of muscle mass and maintaining it, absolutely. Especially if I'm seeing a woman who's coming in and she's not gaining muscle, and we find out like, yeah, her DHEA sulfate's super low, she's blown out, then I'm going to definitely use some testosterone there. Because we, as you know, sarcopenia, man, that'll take you down fast.
Definitely. We want to age in a way that is not only long, but we need to be strong at the same time. So, testosterone is a really big part of that, and it can be really difficult for some people to maintain healthy levels. So I'm really inspired by your use of it and your approach, and also thinking critically and holistically, and not just prescribing it for everybody. Yeah. That's also inspiring to me, because we have this scope of practice, and sometimes the herbs are all we need, and it sounds like you have found that too.
Sometimes, I mean, I'll say this, like, I've gone after the shiny objects. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've been doing this almost 18 years now. And I've went towards the shiny objects and the fast protocols. And the longer I'm in the game, the more the simpler stuff seems to keep coming back and biting me and being like, go back to what go back to the earth, go back to the basics. And yeah, it's impressive when you really can tap back into that and use it at a way that resonates with the patient, but also at a way that like you and your mind are like, I shouldn't have skipped over this. I should try this. Right. It's a nice reminder, but it's all, it's crazy. But I truly do believe that, we could use hybrid approaches here. Yeah. Unfortunately, with the conventional medical society, their eyes get really wide when you're like, you're cutting estrogen patches. What are you doing? You put a patch and a quarter on someone. They're only putting a quarter of a patch on. Anyone who's a practitioner listening to this, you guys, there's no one saying you can't do that. And it's not that it's not safe. It's just finding what works for your clients and your patients, and finding what works for them. I have plenty of people. I have a quarter patch of the 0.025 of the estradiol, and I'm pairing it with a little bit of motherwort. Before a period, I will use it with period stuff too. So I'm going to kind of just throw it out there that you can tailor this medicine to your clients, and as long as they're tracking stuff and you guys are like a team where what's going on every single step of the way with them, this is safe to do. You can do it. But you'll find that herbs resonate with folks a lot more sometimes in a impressive way that we often throw out for the shiny things.
Yeah. So inspiring and well put. Thank you so much, Jannine. I made the joke at the start where I called you J9. And I don't want to apologize for that, because I kind of enjoyed it. Tell me about where J9 came from.
Because my name was tough for a lot of folks to spell. In my high school, when I went to high school, the folks were having a hard time. So I was just like, look, it's Jan9. And they're like, okay. I'm like, J9. I'm just going to sign everything J9. And so if I was to ever do graffiti, it would be J9. And all of my notes back and forth in high school were J9 to everybody. I
love it. I hope we meet in person someday. I'm going to call you J9.
Yeah, let's do it with a big fist pump. We got that.
Thanks so much for your time today. It's super great to chat with you, and really inspiring, I think, for myself and for the listener. And I've learned a lot, and I think some of my protocols have changed because of our conversation. So thank you. How can folks connect with you? Where can we find you online? Give us the name of your podcast again, and what the best social channels would be. Sure.
The Health Fix podcast, you can go to Dr. spelled out JKRAUSE ND, so N is in Nancy, D is in dog.com. That's my website. And then for Instagram, that's my most active social media. Let's go to Instagram. It's Dr. DR, and then my name, Jannine Krause, Krause. And that's where you can find me, at those two spots. And if you want to get in touch, or you have protocol questions, or you just want to pick my brain, because here's the thing, and this is something, David, I really like to put out for practitioners. I love talking. I love sharing. I'm not one of those folks that, oh, you can't hear what I've done. I mean, I'm sharing. I'll tell you all my mistakes. I'll tell you what I see work, what doesn't. You can email me. You can email us directly at the podcast. It's info@Dr. spelled out JKRAUSEND.com. Give me a shout. Tell me you're a practitioner, and let me, run some stuff by me. Let's keep this conversation open. I wish more people were open to talking when I was in my first few years, or even 17th year. I'm happy to chat. Yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Jannine. I really appreciate it. We'll put your contact information in the show notes. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great day, and that you'll come on our show again sometime.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks, David.
Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for today's discussion. What about today's podcast resonated with you? Be sure to tag at Dr. David Deiser and at Get Vitamin Lab. If you're learning from and enjoying this podcast, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget to leave us a review. It's the best way to support our podcast, and it helps others find us. To learn more or book a demo to explore what personalization could do for your practice, please go to www.getvitaminlab.com/personalized.